Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back into another video. In today's video, I have a great podcast episode for you guys that I'm so excited for you guys to listen to. I've been talking about doing something like this for a long time, and finally, we had the opportunity. Myself and my cousin Steph, she helped me and she joined me in this podcast to have a conversation with former FBI agent Gilbert Carrillo, and he was one of the agents that helped capture the Night Stalker, also known as Richard Ramirez, back in the 80s, guys. I mean, this podcast was full of a little bit of everything, but I will say that in order for you guys to get the context of the video, I would love for you guys to go to Netflix and watch the Night Stalker. And it's a docuseries around Richard Ramirez, of course, and all the events that took place back in the 80s of his killing spree, right? So some of the questions that we had were based from the documentary and what we have seen, and of course, questions that we had on our own after watching the documentary. But let me tell you guys, this was I thought that this was going to be a episode just talking about those events, but I think I learned a lot today from Gilbert. We had meaningful conversation. We had honest conversation. I met a great man today, an honorable man, a man with integrity, a man with a lot of humility, and I learned a lot from him today. And truly, when I say that, what a good man he is. You know, if there was superheroes in this earth, he's one of them. And I truly believe he is to his community and the people in the country he served. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Of course, you will see that we were a little bit nervous. You know, we got the jitters a little bit, but it's normal. It's not, we don't do this often. I don't do this often on my channel. But I just hope that you guys really enjoy the conversation behind the questions that we had, and of course the stories that Gil had to share. Again, an honorable man, and you know, I think one day us as men, we will strive to be somebody like him in the future. So without further ado, I'll let you guys enjoy the podcast. I'll let you guys enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you're listening to all the audio platforms, you can watch this video on 4K in YouTube. But this one might be 1080p. I don't know, probably. But if not, you can listen also to all, this podcast and audio platform. So thank you guys for supporting. Thank you guys for the love. And I hope to bring more content like this on my channel. All right, let's do it. All right, well, let's get started, Gil. Let's start it. Let's do it. So thank you for being here again. Thank you for coming to my podcast. We're excited to ask the questions, and one of the first things that we wanted to do, so you can just introduce yourself to our audience. And what was your title at the time of the events that took place with the Night Stalker, also known as Richard Ramirez?
Okay, well, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you today. I had a very long career in law enforcement, 38 years in law enforcement. 21 of those years were as an investigator working the Homicide Bureau. And my last 5 years, I was a lieutenant, supervising lieutenant in the Homicide Bureau. So I had 14 investigators working for me. And
Wow.
during the time of this investigation, I was, at that time, I know something that I don't know that anybody over there is old enough to remember, but we used to use beepers. And I had a pager. And so I was up in the rotation, 10:40 at night, March 17th, 1985. And they called me up, didn't have to page me. I was home. And they said, "You got a murder, 8510 Village Lane in the city of Rosemead." So I said, okay. So I went just like any other murder, routine, mundane murder. And that's what started it. I then became the only investigator that was on it from beginning to end. And
Wow.
my partner ultimately ended up being Frank Salerno, who
Mhm.
was a well-known figure in Homicide Bureau. Everybody looked up to him. Everybody recognized him. He was we used to call him, he was the Goomba. He was the leader. He asked me to in December of '84. We were at a Christmas party, and he asked me if I was interested in becoming his partner. His partner was retiring, and so I said, "Well, sure, I'd take it." And I went back and I sat with my wife, and I said, "Frank Salerno just asked me to be his partner." And she goes, "So, who's Frank Salerno?" And I said, "Who's Frank Salerno? Gee, don't you understand? That's Frank St. Frank. He had worked on the Hillside Strangler.
Right.
And he could have had anybody in that bureau that he wanted as a partner, but yet he chose myself with only 4 years experience, 3 years experience at that time. I went to March 23rd, 1981 was when I got assigned to Homicide Bureau, and he asked me to be his partner. And so I was excited. In January, he asked me to meet him at one of our substations, and I did. And he said, "Hey, listen, I want to talk to you. Remember at the Christmas party, I asked you if you'd consider being my partner, and you said
Hmm.
yes." He said, "Well, I'm here to tell you that I was in my cups. I'd been drinking a lot that night." And so I figured, okay, now he's letting me down. He was drunk and really didn't mean it. And so in order to be cool, I said, "Yeah, so was I." And he says, "Well, I'm not in my cups right now." He said, "I want to know if you'll still be my partner." I said, "Yeah, I'd certainly still be your partner." He said, "Good, because I've already talked to the captain about it. Told him you agreed, and
Wow.
we're going to hook up." So that was done in January, but we really didn't hook up until June because of he became the acting lieutenant for a while. My partner went off sick, so it wasn't until actually June the
Uh,
27th, June the 28th, we became partners on the case of Patty Lane Higgins in another incorporated city out here, City of Arcadias. Then we became partners full time.
did did he ever tell you, or did you ever ask yourself why did he choose you? Like, what was like the reason behind that, or his purpose?
No, in the documentary, I've learned, you don't know the answer to a question, don't ask the question, because I may not like the
Gotcha.
answer. So
Right.
I
Gotcha.
never did. I was satisfied with the fact I don't need a reason why. He asked, that's all I needed. But in the documentary by Netflix, they asked him why. And he said, "I picked Gil because he was young, he was Hispanic, he spoke the language,
Makes sense.
and he was good. And I just thought that we'd be good partners." And
Wow.
so that's why I asked him. And I was elated. I didn't care
Yeah.
why. I
Yeah.
was working with
You
Frank.
knew you were in.
Yeah.
You.
How did
Go ahead,
they
sir.
give you the case, or how do they assign the cases to you?
You were on a numerical rotation. When
Oh,
I went up that week, it's, they had 1 through 7. So it's
Wow.
2-person team. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And when they get to your name, the next case that comes in, if you're up, it's your case. And nobody knew this was going to be a serial case. This is just another routine, mundane murder. And
mm-hmm.
so we got it. I was working with a partner by the name of Jimmy Mercer at that time. And we went out to 8510 Village Lane for the death of Dale Okazaki and the wounding of Maria Hernandez. And that just started it. And then there was something different about the case. I owed this entire investigation, 90% of it, to the knowledge that I gained from one man, retired FBI agent, college professor by the name of Dr. Robert Morneau. And Morneau, I took 2 semesters of advanced criminal investigation pertaining to sex crimes from him at Cal State Los Angeles. And he taught me stuff that, would make people's heads spin. Most investigators did not subscribe to it. If you don't know sex crimes, then you wouldn't believe half the stuff he taught. And that's what got me
Wow.
through this case.
Wow. In regarding towards the doctor side of things, right? So Stephanie and I, we actually went to a criminologist event last week. I don't know if you ever heard of Dr. Scott Bond, but he's a criminologist and he's written
No.
books about serial killers. And I kid you not, the third serial killer that he was mentioning was Richard Ramirez, and
Uh-huh.
he stated that, and I want to know your thoughts on this.
Okay.
That the characteristics of Richard Ramirez as a serial killer is power, control, and thrill. From your experience, do you characterize him as that, or is there something else that you would see him as from your experience?
No, that pretty well sums it up. the power experience, he'll in essence, and he did tell us, you know, if you acquiesced to his commands, you survived. If you didn't, you died. So he liked the power. And the
Mm.
thrill was always sex. He was a sexual deviant.
So it was all because of lust that he was making all these
Well,
murders.
in my opinion, I'm not a high paid doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not in my opinion, after what I learned from Morneau. Now, if you talk to Frank, my partner, Frank just thought he was a burglar that would
Uh,
do whatever he wanted to when he was there. You know, if he wanted to rape, he'd rape. If he not, he'd burglarize. And I thought it was much deeper than that.
wow.
And we've seen like in many other serial killers, they have like a signature kind of something that they do and leave that makes them very known as that, like, the
Their
BTK
MO.
killer. Yeah. For Richard, besides, the shoe, because we know the shoe was a big thing in your investigation. Did he do anything else? Because throughout the documentary we saw too, it was just like he was just picked randomly or didn't really have like a specific type of person that he was going after.
The shoe was not part of the MO. That's just what he was wearing. That's just evidential. That was there for
Hmm.
evidence. And I can tell you
Mm.
without equivocation, 1,356 pair Model 440 Avias arrived in New York on January 9, 1985 from China for distribution throughout the US, of which one pair ended up in downtown LA. So that was just pure evidentiary purpose.
Hmm.
He had no, uh, his only consistency was his inconsistency, because
Wow.
normally serial killers do things in the same fashion, you
Hmm.
know, and he used guns, different caliber guns, different types of guns. He used knives. He used blunt force trauma. One point, it looks like he used a machete. Used a hammer for as a sex instrument after he hit people with manual strangulation, ligature strangulation, and his victims range in age from 5 all the way up to 85. So you can see there, his only consistency was his inconsistency, which
Wow.
made it that much more difficult to solve the case.
And
Go
let
ahead.
me tell you, I was so frustrated. I'm so sorry, Carlos, but I was
Go
so
ahead. Go
frustrated with
ahead.
the media and how they were just willing to spread all of the
Mhm.
evidence that you had, like especially when who was it for
Mayor
Laurel.
me?
Feinstein,
My yes, yes. I was just like, where's the common sense here? Like, and which is what one of my questions was like, do you think it was just because of the time that maybe serial killers weren't as well known, or is just beginning to spread out that they were just you just
Mhm.
thought, oh, me spreading all this evidence, it was going to be more helpful than me keeping it, and we saw that, Richard was very well aware of everything that was happening.
it was, but you're asking me about 6 different questions in one statement. What she did was irresponsible. It was pure political. Nobody else did it out here. There was, I'm trying to think of her name, and we ended up as friends, very good friends.
Is it
Uh,
the reporter?
yes, uh,
Laurel.
Laurel Erickson.
Laurel Erickson. Yeah.
Laurel Erickson. At one time during the case, I wanted her arrested. I wanted to arrest her for extortion. She was she was trying to extort us. She knew about the shoe print,
Hmm.
Yes.
and she found out about the shoe print because one of the houses we did a search warrant on, we have to leave a copy of the warrant that what we were looking for, and it specifically stated the Avia shoe print, the Avia shoe. She knew that information, and so she was threatening our department. Either you give Frank and Gil, we get to stand up with them, which would have been
Hmm.
an exclusive. And if they won't give it to us, if you won't let us have it, then we're going to go public with a shoe print. And that was the only time that anybody threatened. And as we became friends, and we became friends with their producer, Paul Skolnick, Paul said she was never going to do that. But you learned how good she was because she was an attractive lady at the time. Not that she's not attractive now, but she was much younger. She was
Hmm.
attractive. And so she would sit there and like I said, we became friends. We drank together. She'd sit there and say, do I play dumb blonde, or do I put my finger right here, or do I blow their egos up so much that they're going to give me something? Just she used every trick in the book. She
Wow.
was good at what she did, and she got
Wow.
her information out. Conversely speaking, he was just as good. Henry Alfaro, who was a reporter out here with ABC, I remember him going up to San Francisco and he saw me. He said, "Hey, Gil," he says, "how about a story? What's going on?" I said, "Henry, we're in San Francisco. You need anything? You got to go to San Francisco. We can't give you anything." He says, "Okay, you owe me one." And I said, "All right, you're on." So when we finally got the case filed and we held him at preliminary hearing, he said, "Gil, you owe me one." I said, "Okay, let's go." And I gave him an exclusive by myself, just with him, to
Wow.
report. You know, and I just saw a reporter this last weekend, and an old reporter that I used to work with out in the field. And I said, "I don't," because I've been gone for 15 years. And I said, "I don't know if you remember. I just wanted to say hi." She said, "Remember you. Not only forget everything you did for us, but the Night Stalker documentary. Yes, you're from that. And yes, I remember doing stand-ups with you. And we really miss you. You were so good because you knew what to do. I knew
Mm,
and understood that the news media needs us, and we need the news media just as bad as they need us.
right.
We need them to get certain words out. We want information out. They need us so they can have information to put out because that's what keeps their media going, the
Right.
information they put out."
That was one of my questions and frustrations when she came to you and she was telling you, "I'm going to release this information to the public if you don't give me something." I was like in the back of my head, I'm like, is there like a law behind that? Can't you get in
Yeah.
trouble for doing that? Is there like
I,
something in place?
I was ready to
I,
go. I wanted to arrest her, but my captain said no. So what he did was he made us stay in the office for about 30 minutes. So they got in place in our parking lot. And then he said, "Okay, now you can go." Because we had to leave. We had work to do out in the street. As we're walking out, she came up to us in the parking lot. And she really, on that particular day, she talked to Frank. I'm standing right next to Frank. And she says, "Hey, Frank," because everybody knew Frank. Nobody knew me. Frank was a
right.
big, big stud with the Hillside Strangler. And can you tell us? He gave him some answer just to blow her off, but nothing particular to the case. And that's just the way, Frank knew how to do things. And back then, matter of fact, everybody knew Frank. And because people would ask, other cops would say, "Well, who's working the case?" "Well, everybody knows. Well, it's Frank Salerno and the other detective." Nobody knew my name.
Right.
I wasn't
Coming up, you
anybody.
were coming up.
Yeah. And so at the end of it, two guys that I made come off the golf course on their day off, we need you to do some work. They're the ones that we found that researched the shoe print for us. And we said, "Find this."
Oh,
And so they gave me a little plaque, and they got a ping pong ball, and they cut it in half. They put two balls on this ping pong on this plaque, and it said to Gil Todd, which stood for the other detective, Carrillo. You had the balls, and you had the perseverance and tenacity.
wow.
Great job. So
That's
it
awesome.
it was a nice way to say I was right.
Wow.
If right now, like you looking back and with everything, a lot of people becoming crime junkies and going through cases again and just hearing about everything. Do you ever have moments where you question your approach or to how you handled the case?
Hmm.
No, absolutely not. The way we handled the way I worked on that case couldn't have been handled any other way. I'm very glad with the input. You take luck over skill any day, but it just so happened he happened to be Hispanic. I happened to be Hispanic.
Hmm.
And, Frank went in there and admonished his constitutional rights. And he invoked right away, which means anything he says can be used against him. So we're all shut down. Can't ask him anything. And he said, "All right, all bets are off. See it." And he was his response, "Well, hey, wait a minute. I got some questions." And I said, "Well, what kind of questions do you have?" And he sat down and we started talking. First thing he said was, "What are they?" And well, I knew what Operandi was.
All right.
And my partner didn't. He called Frank Mr. Salerno, but he called me Gil. And him and I got along. And he's never once, nobody's ever heard me badmouth him. Uh, he never heard me raise my voice. He never heard me call him names. He never heard anything. It was like just talking to you and I right now. And that got me through the case, the way I approached the investigation, the way
Mm.
everything that went on. It was just so difficult because we asked for, I'm around January, see, March, April, April 10th, not January, April 10th. I attended a meeting, uninvited. I attended a meeting in Monterey Park Police Department. They had members from LAPD, Montebello Police Department, Monterey Park Police Department, and some deputies that were working the sex crimes unit from our department. And they held this meeting. I heard about the meeting because a friend of mine told me, hey, they're holding a meeting and the FBI is going to be there. So I went down there for an exchange of information. Everybody presented their case, what their case was. The FBI agent was there. He was there to collect their information. They were giving over their reports. And then he was going to take it back to Quantico, Virginia, to the behavioral science unit. He was going to send everything back there so they could go over it and come up with a profile on who the suspect might
Mm.
be. Well, I went and everybody got their shot at presenting. And they said, okay, Gil, what are you here for? And I said, well, here's my case. And I, at that time, had linked 2 child abductions and 2 or 3 murders by that time. And I said, I believe this is why, yada, yada, yada. But nobody, and the reason it was so tough, even for people from my bureau, they didn't believe me
Wow.
because back then, everything that the FBI did and we did in law enforcement is predicated on history. Somebody's done this before. Let's see what they do. Nobody in criminal history had ever been documented what I was alleging at the time. So people didn't believe me. People didn't believe in it. They thought I was blowing hot air. Matter of fact, I won't say publicly everything they were saying, but I was a young punk Mexican trying to make a name for myself with a
Wow.
few explicatives thrown in there just to get them by. When in fact, come around July, my captain called back to Quantico and said, hey, where's the profile? You guys are supposed to help. My guy gave you all the paperwork. And I said, what paperwork? We didn't get anything from him. Well, come to find out, the FBI agent that was there thought that I was blowing hot air. So he sent everybody else's paperwork, but didn't send mine.
Wow.
So he didn't send my paperwork in. So 2 days later, the FBI flew out from Quantico and they were here to help out. So it was tough, all predicated on criminal history. And to
Hmm.
this day, there hasn't been a copycat because nobody knows what Richard was really doing.
Right.
Yeah. There was a
Wow.
part too where you had 2 other agents at the dentist
Yes,
office, and I can't remember if it was a director or something. They were like, "Why are you wasting so much money on having these agents there?" And the day that you pull them out and the LAPD puts in the alarm,
Device.
everything goes off and he goes in, and I was just like, "Listen to him,
it was
please."
it was the at that time it was the undersheriff of Los Angeles County who did it. Ordered us to pull them out. It was a waste of money because the doctor's office was in LAPD's area. We stuck 2 Asian detectives in there just to stake the place out in case Richard came in. And that doctor's office, he was open 7 days a week. He was a money hungry man. He did a lot of work and we were getting no results. I had gotten a copy of the x-rays, the reason we thought he was going to be in there. And I showed them to a friend of mine that I grew up with who was a dentist. And he's the one that told me he's got an impacted tooth that's going to be killing him. He's got to go back. That's why we stuck the investigators in there. The undersheriff said, pull them out. It's a waste of our money. Let LAPD put their own robbery alarm in there. It's their jurisdiction anyway. Let them do that. So I said, yes, sir. So we did it. And they put it in. And it wasn't LAPD's fault. It was a malfunctioning alarm. The alarm never went off. I got the call that night from the dentist saying, hey, what happened? We did what you said. We pushed the alarm. Nobody ever came. And so the next day,
Mm.
deputies went back in there. It was like, okay, close the barn now that the animals have gotten loose. And they shut the door
Right.
and Richard got his work done and got away.
And he
So never
committed more
said that.
crimes after that,
Oh,
right?
yes, he did.
Oh man. Can you do us a favor, Gil? Can you help help me understand how does jurisdictions work within law enforcement? I hear a lot about that when it comes to even other serial killers where offices were not sharing information, and that's one of the reasons why when you committed a crime somewhere, nobody connected them fast enough. How does that work, and why does that happen?
Well, it happens because sometimes because of egos. Monterey Park
Mm.
was a city, it's an incorporated city. You have to understand that even in New York and in Georgia, everything's
Mm-hmm.
divided into either counties or
Correct.
incorporated cities.
Yes, sir.
And there are unincorporated cities that are cities, but they're not incorporated. So they come under the jurisdiction of the county area anyway. So the sheriff's department, which is Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, we are in charge of all unincorporated cities, all unincorporated areas in Los Angeles County.
Gotcha.
Incorporated cities have their own police departments. Los Angeles Police Department, Monterey Park had theirs. The chief of police from Monterey Park, he was not exchanging information at all. He had an ego thing. He wanted his boys to solve this major case. We were Big Brother coming in and stepping in and stepping all over them. So he didn't want it. They can do whatever they want. It's their city. If we felt that it was a danger, the sheriff has the power to go in and say, okay, we're taking this now. He never exercised that, but he does have the ultimate power. The sheriff is the ultimate law enforcement representative in the particular county he's at.
Right.
So, although we had at that time probably close to 10,000, we had about 9,500 sworn personnel. LAPD had about the same, and we'd go back and forth. Sometimes they'd have a little more, sometimes they'd have a little less.
Mm-hmm.
We just go back and forth. So out of New York, you have the city of New York, which has probably one of if not them in Detroit, one of the largest departments in the United States. But inside your New York, they have smaller cities that are incorporated that have their own agencies. So they would handle their own stuff, and they always have the ability to contact whatever jurisdiction. So if a murder happens, say in the city of Rosemead is an incorporated city, but they contract with the sheriff's department to handle their murders for you. So we handle their murder. Monterey Park is an incorporated city, but they don't contract through us. They use our crime lab, but they have their own cops and they do their own investigations.
Mm-hmm.
We should be exchanging information.
Right.
And we do for the most part. We exchange, in this case, we exchange information with whoever wanted to listen to us. We worked very closely with LAPD on this case. We worked very closely. Arcadia was another case we worked with. A lot of agencies are smaller agencies, but we do they hire us to do their homicide is a specialty, and you need to devote an awful lot of time. It's very scientific, and it's a lot of man hours and logistical problems that go along with homicide. So they just contract through us to do their work, and that's why. When you get egos from chiefs of police from smaller cities, because they want the big news media, they want to let everybody know they're capable of solving big crimes, then they don't exchange information. We can't stop that.
Oh man, that's
I
unfortunate.
have another question too. With Richard, I feel like as y'all were getting closer to capturing him, he was committing more and more and more crimes instead of like cooling off or, maybe saying, okay, I'm not gonna do anything else now. Do you think it was that fear that he was gonna get caught soon, so he wanted to get everything out, or do you think it was more of a cat and mouse game for him? Like,
Okay, I can't answer. I really can't. Not being a wise guy, I can't answer questions like that because now you're asking me to tell you about the operation of his mind. I have trouble enough staying up with my own mind, much less trying to figure out his mind. He knew. We talked to him. I talked to him, and he was getting tired towards the end, and he knew that capture was inevitable. 2 weeks, the week before he was arrested, we had no idea who this guy was. We didn't identify him until around the 28th of August, which was Wednesday. We had, by this time now, we knew he was called Ricky or El Despeinado, but we didn't know, you got a nickname and a street name from somebody in Los Angeles County where millions of people reside. Up until then, we had no idea who he was, where he was, or anything like that. But on that Sunday, we got called out to Mission Viejo, which is about from, it's not in Los Angeles County. That's in another county. That's Orange County jurisdiction. So it's about, I'd say 50 miles south of downtown LA.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my captain at that time, we'll have him within 2 weeks. We had no idea who we were. We'll have him in 2 weeks. The night before he was captured, I said, we'll have him in a week.
Wow.
And the day before he was arrested, the captain called us and he said, the sheriff from Los Angeles County, him, the chief of police from LAPD, Daryl Gates, the sheriff of Orange County, Brad Gates, and the chief of police in San Francisco, they were going to have a meeting in Sheriff Block's office, our sheriff's office,
Mm-hmm.
and they were going to be on a conference call with San Francisco. And the topic was, we've now positively identified him Friday afternoon. So do we go public with his identity and release it,
Right.
or do we hold it? And he said, what do you guys want to do? And I said, you know what? We understand why, but we're asking for 24 hours. We'll have him in custody. Because if we don't have those 24 hours, he's going to see his name, and then
He's
it's
gonna
going to be a
run.
chase. And he knows we're after him now. It's going to be that much more difficult to get him. And he said, okay. He came back about 20 minutes later. He said, we lose. They're releasing his name today. And we understood, because if he killed again that night and we didn't release it, it'd have been bad for
Mm.
everybody.
Wow.
So as it turned out, hindsight's 2020. They did the right thing. They released it. And it just so happened that all the stars aligned and he ended up at the bus depot and got identified.
Gil, so in the documentary, when I was listening to it, in the part where he got captured and all the running he did, I felt like it was a lot. But can you give us like a description of how much he actually ran?
He
Um,
ran, it was at a sprint, and he ran about 2 miles. And in those 2 miles, he had to jump over walls and fences to get to around the block, get across the street. Then he actually had to run across 10 lanes of the 5 freeway. Even though there wasn't a
wow.
bunch of traffic, people are speeding. That's Saturday morning across the 10 freeway. And he kept running in a northeasterly direction. And he's running through LAPD's area, and then he crossed the center divider, which now put him in the county area. He ended up on the name of the street, just Hubbard Street. And he got about 3/4 of the block down, and he tried to carjack. First, he tried to carjack a man right
Mm-hmm.
away, wrecked the car in the driveway, didn't get away. Then he got out of there and he ran up the block a little bit, and he tried carjacking a lady. The lady he tried carjacking was screaming. Her husband came out. He had a pipe right there by the door,
Hmm.
ran up and hit him in the head. Now, here's a guy that's been jumping fences, not much of a fight. Hit him in the head, but the neighbors heard what was going on. They saw the commotion. So Richard turned to start to run away from them, and he was just exhausted. He quit. They didn't
Right.
beat him up. He just quit. He said, okay, you got me. And they just encircled him until the cops got there.
How proud were
Wow.
you that the community like really was there to be like, the community you were protecting too were like there to defend themselves as well. Like how proud of you that.
I had no feelings at that time. The realities are that day, I'm exhausted. We're tired. We're under total focus on what we have to do. I can't think about, oh, we're excited, we're happy, congratulations, I'm proud. I wasn't. I really
Wow.
wasn't. I'm happy that they did what they did. But the realities are, because I'm Hispanic and because I grew up in a barrio, and because it was a cop that took me home at the age of 17 and told my parents time for them to get off the streets, they'll end up dead or in prison. I know what it's like. So I know in the barrio, these people they're just out there seeing what's going on. Hey, and you're not going to mess with the people in our barrio. But there was no fight. They didn't have to fight because he was exhausted. They sat down. They did the right thing. They didn't beat the dog snot out of him
Mm-hmm.
because these were good people. I was happy that they didn't beat him to death. If it had been the gangbangers that got him, they'd have killed him just because he was, without knowing who he was, just because he was trying to harm somebody in their barrio. But
Oh,
these
that makes
these were
sense.
these were good citizens. They were good people.
Mm.
So no, I wasn't proud of all Hispanics. I wasn't proud of my people. I was happy he was in custody, and now the work was really going to go on forward.
Awesome. I had a question in regards to the way he moved around from crime to crime. We saw in the documentary that there was sometimes he stole some cars, maybe the use of bikes, but did he ever go on foot at all? Because these locations, in my mind, they look kind of close, but I'm not sure because obviously I've
No, they
never.
were several miles apart, all of them. Number one, I don't know where you heard he went on bikes. We have no
So
knowledge. I
no
have no
bikes.
knowledge, no bikes at all.
Okay.
And the only time he was on foot was when he'd get out of the car. There was a stolen car. He'd steal the car, go caper, get out of the car to do his business, then he'd get back in the car to get away.
And this was every time he committed a crime. Was this? I'm assuming it wasn't a new car every time, but he always had a stolen car to drive
Yes,
around.
different cars.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot of cars to steal, let me tell you.
He was good
uh,
at he was good at his craft.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Um,
What advice would you give to a young investigator now or a criminology student now that is entering the field from all the experience that you've had? Like, what advice would you give them that
it's a
is
good
just
question.
starting up?
The same advice that I'd give to anybody going into any field that they're working, that's going into a marriage, going into a relationship with a guy or a girl, anything. And that is number one, you have to have an infinite amount of understanding of the suspect or exchange a suspect for your employee, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Everybody does something for a reason. You
Mhm.
Mm,
don't condone what they do, but you have to have an understanding. I knew that Richard, in my mind, was a sexual deviant, and he was doing this, as you said, for the thrill that the doctor said, the thrill. He was doing it for a reason. There's his reason, and I understand it. Because if he doesn't do that, he doesn't satisfy his need for sex. There's thrill.
right.
I don't condone his actions, but I understand them. And it makes it
Wow.
a lot easier for me to talk to him if I understand him. Number two, you have to be a dynamic listener. You have to focus. When I'm in an interview situation, an interrogation or an interview is with somebody that's on your side, they're a victim or a witness. An
Hmm.
interrogation is somebody that has something to hide from you, and you need to elicit their information. I become an intent listener. I actually watch the words come out of their lips. It just
Wow.
come out of their mouth. I watch her. I'm focused. Turn everything out. I don't write anything down. And when I go into an interrogation, you sit there and I have a notebook in front of me, open
Hmm.
up with a pen, and I sit there. Okay, your name, Carlos Granados. Where do you live? Okay, and your age, date of birth. Do you work? Where do you work at? And you live with your family. You have a mother or father. Okay, all right. Hold up that book with my pen inside and push it away from me. That way, the person I'm interrogating doesn't think that I'm writing.
Correct.
Because if you're writing, and something I tell my wife all the time, I remind her of it, and that is, if you're thinking of a response, if I sit there and say, you know what, that shirt you're wearing, it's terrible. You shouldn't be wearing that shirt. And you in your mind say, everybody's been telling me, I know what he's going to tell me. He's going to tell me that my shirt is no good, that I shouldn't be wearing it. But I haven't finished my statement yet. Then you're really not listening to me. Your mind is thinking
Hmm.
of a response.
Right.
And if your mind is thinking of a response, then you're not paying attention. You're not listening to me.
Right.
So you need to be a great listener, better than the average person. You need to have the understanding. You have to put yourself in their shoes. How would you like to be treated if you were in their shoes?
Mhm.
Wow.
And never forget where you came from. Never forget where you came from. It's the
Wow.
best advice I could give somebody.
Well,
I love
th-
that.
thank you. Thank you for your words. That's actually that almost made me cry a little bit. But
Uh,
I was gonna ask you in regards to the the documentary when when you got the call, how does that work in Netflix? Because I'm curious, how does Netflix call you? How do they reach out to you? How long is the process of building a documentary like that? Because it felt pretty big. 4 episodes. I feel like it takes a lot of time that goes into building a documentary like that. How long was the
it,
process when it came to that?
it's hard to remember what the process was like because it also happened during COVID. So they had to stop production for a while because of COVID. So they couldn't get out. We couldn't get out there and
Oh.
work and do anything like that. What actually happened was a friend of mine, Brian Gracias. Brian, I knew Brian's family, his uncles. I knew his grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
His uncles were in law enforcement. He had his dad and his another couple of uncles were in the fire department, and he got injured on duty, so he had to medically retire from law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And in medically retiring from law enforcement, he went into writing, and he was writing for the program Chicago PD, and was a nationally played program on television. And he called me up one day and he says, "Hey, Gil, I'm over here writing, and but I've been thinking, man, I got an idea because if you look at TV and movies today, there are no heroes in Mexicans." He said,
Wow.
"Latinos are always dopers, they're thugs, they're murderers, they're robbers, they're
Mm-hmm.
beaters. They're up to no good. We don't have anybody to look up to." He says, "I've known you. I know what you've done. I know about so much of you." He says, "I think you're a hero, and I would like to sit down with you. And I have a friend of mine that's a co-writer. We'd like to take you out to dinner and just sit down." So that's what we did. We sat down, went out, and they had this idea. They wanted to put something together, and it was pie in the sky. And so I went out and met him. I came back. The wife said, "Well, how'd it go?" I said, "Well, yeah, it was all right. I mean, pie in the sky." Had a good steak and drank some good wine and met another friend, this Tim Walsh, who was Brian's friend, co-writer. And then Brian went to work on the motorcycle outlaw gang show. I forget about a motorcycle gang. They were on TV for a long time too. And God, how can I forget? But anyway, he went to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim Walsh called me up about a year later, and he says, "Hey, Gil, I'd like to take you out to dinner. I want you to meet somebody else." I said, "All right." So I went and met him. And that's when I met Tiller Russell, who was the director of the Netflix documentary. And he just
Wow.
said, "Gil, Tim has told me all about you. He says, I just wanted to meet you, see what was going on, and see what you were like." So we met, we had dinner. And by the time we were done, he says, "Well, hey, listen, I'm sold. I want to do a documentary. And, what you did was phenomenal. And I think we could do something good." And he said, "Are you in?" I said, "I'm in." We shook hands. He said, "I'll have my attorneys contact you in the morning." I said, "We don't need attorneys right away. You got my handshake, and I'm a man of integrity. I'll talk to nobody else.
Wow.
I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a time when attorneys have to get involved, and we'll do it at that time." So that's what started it. And then he went and he told me that night, he said, "Okay, what we'll do," he says, "I'm going to start writing this up. And as we get it written up," he says, "I'll call you up and see how we're going to do it. This is my plan. This is what I want to do." I said, "You don't have to tell me anything. You guys are the professionals. I'm just the talking head." And he said, "Okay, well, once we get it all shot and we go into editing, we'll call you in the editing room so you can be there when we edit it." I said, "I don't need to be there for the editing either. You guys are the pros. I'm just the talking head. When it drops, let us know, and I'll watch it like everybody else."
Wow.
And so that's what we did. And the night that it dropped, he called me up and just said, "Gil, it's going to drop tonight at midnight, and enjoy the ride." And I said, "What do you mean enjoy the ride?" He said, "I'll talk to you in about a week or two." And I had no idea what he was talking about, and I learned very quickly what he was talking about. And since that time, because of the documentary, I've 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 done a lot of speaking before all over the place, but man, I'm talking all over the
Ooh,
U.S.
nothing like
Did
this.
podcasts for Australia.
Wow.
I was asked to fly. They wanted to fly me last November. I was asked to go to Prague, Czechoslovakia, to go talk at a conference over there. So it just opened up an awful lot of doors for me and opened up a lot of stuff, and people want to do a lot of things.
Do you feel that the documentary captured the essence of like your work and the partnership that you had with Frank or have with Frank throughout the whole documentary?
Yeah, it did. My stuff, excuse me, there was a fly around here. It was bothering me. Um, it did. Everything in there was truth. The documentary made it sound like Frank and I were partners from the very beginning. You assumed that we were partners. We actually, I got the first murder March 17th, 1985. Frank and I didn't hook up until June the 28th of
like 3
'85.
months or so.
Yeah, and then he was arrested August 31st of '85. So it followed it. It was good. It was right on. The only mistake I could
Hmm.
see that it made at one point in time, it said I transferred to homicide October 1st of 1970, 71. And that was the day I joined the department. That's not the day I went to homicide. And that's the only mistake. And
Mm,
I'm sure they took it out of context. And I didn't even hear it the first time they said it out. The documentary itself, in talking to Tiller, I expressed to him that I can say this. I told him I didn't give two shits about television. I really didn't care. What I wanted to do in life is I wanted to leave a legacy for my grandchildren,
amen.
and that's all I wanted to do. All I ever wanted out of life before was to prove, to earn, to make my dad proud of me. I wanted him to become proud of me. And my dad passed before the actual arrest or anything, and he did capture the essence of the documentary, because when I watched it at time, I cried. They showed some pictures of my dad and myself as a kid,
Hmm.
and I laughed, and I'm always laughing. And so he talked to him 2 weeks later, and he said, "What'd you think?" I said, "You got it. You nailed it." I said, "I can't thank you enough." I cried and I laughed. And that one scene, I now know uh, subliminally, my dad's proud of me. You stuck that in there, and I know my dad's proud of me. He said,
Hmm.
"Exactly." He said, "And while during editing, we went ahead, and when that part came on, the part you're talking about, I shut the machine down, turned on the lights, and everybody in the room was crying." He says, "So I knew we had a hit. I knew it was going to be good." And it did. It came out very good. I've been very pleased with the outcome of it, and I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Wow. In regards to your father, um, is how important it would have been for you? Well, and you talked a little about in the documentary of him being around while you accomplished such a big feat in your career, because I thought it was, massive. But as a man, who, and just to get a little personal, my father wasn't around when I was growing up. I can only imagine in my head the things that I feel like I've accomplished in my short career in my life, how proud, I would have loved to hear those words come out of him, and like, I'm proud of you, son. And I
I
could.
it would have meant the world to me. Let me tell you, uh, it was a different time at that time, the culturally even speaking. My dad was dying of cancer. He was in bed, in a hospital bed, and my family was around. I asked everybody to step out of the room. I wanted to talk to my dad alone. So I stepped out of the room. I grabbed my dad's hand. I said, "Dad, I got to tell you something." And he said, "What is it?" I said, "Dad, I love you." I had never said I love you to my dad. I'd
Wow.
said it to my mom, but I'd never said it to my dad. My dad never once told me he loved me. I said, "Dad, I love you." My dad put his hand on mine. He said, "Me too, mijo. Me too." But didn't say I love you. So I remember when my dad passed, the next day, I told my sister was down the house. My sister was helping my mom. They were going through his personal belongings. And I told my sister, "I wish I had just heard my dad say I love you." And I said, "I know he did, but I just wish there had been some confirmation." About a half
Right.
hour later, she came in. My dad, being old school Mexican, had a little metal file box. And she says, "Well, let me tell you something. You question my dad's love for you?" She says, "In this file box that we found in the closet was the deed to the house, all the insurance papers, every important document, and $10,000 in there. And it was all wrapped up in this newspaper. And you open up the newspaper, and it's me on the front page. It's an article about me when I was helping start in an orphanage in Vietnam."
Wow.
And so I know that he loved me, and I know he was proud of me. When my dad passed, his boss from work called my mom up and said, "Have your son come pick up a turkey and a bottle of whiskey." That's what they used to give the employees where my dad worked. So I went down there as a construction worker. So I went down to the yard and I walked into the business office and there's these old guys sitting around. He says, "Oh, you must be Carrillo's boy." And I said, "Yes, sir." "Oh, well, I'm Lino and I'm Blinky and I'm so and so." They're giving me these names. I said, "Well, it's an honor to meet all of you." I said, "I've heard of your names. My father's talked about you to my mom, but this is the first opportunity I've had to meet you." And they said, "Oh, we knew all about you. Your dad was so proud of you
Wow.
from the time you went into the army. Then when you became a cop, forget about it. Then you were going to college. He just couldn't stop talking about you." But I never heard it.
Yeah.
And so I know. And when he was sick, his brothers came out from New Mexico and they were at the house. And I went home. I was just transferring into Homicide Bureau. And I got an evaluation, said I was outstanding. And those are hard to come by back then. And so I showed it to my mom, and my mom said, "Oh, I mean, well, look it." And she gave it to my dad. My dad read it, and my dad looked at me and said, "I'm proud of you." And my mom,
Mm,
I was mama's boy. I had six sisters, no brothers, so I could do no wrong. And my mom just looked at me and said, "You mean it took 28 years of life and for somebody else to tell you how good your son was for you before you could say you were proud of him?" And his brothers right there said, "Oh, shit." And he said,
hey,
"No." He says, "It was part of me helping him become a man. I wanted him to work hard, and he's done good." And I'm thinking down deep inside, "Hey, Dad, that's a good one. A good, you're quick on your feet. That's a good response." I didn't think, that was the truth until I met his coworkers. Then I knew it was the truth.
wow.
So it was that night that I came home after we got the conviction. I came home, I crawled in bed. My wife had never seen me cry. I crawled in bed. I said nothing, and I just started crying like a baby. And she just put her arm around me and said, "It's okay. He was with you. Your
Hmm.
dad was with you. So it's all good now."
That that's amazing. Do you now emphasize that to your kids of um, verbalizing the affection, the I love you, the
There's
that
not
take
a
care?
day that goes by that I don't say I love you.
Wow.
Even when they went to bed and they were pissed off at me, if they'd get in trouble, I'd say, "I love you.
Good man.
I love you." You
Good
know,
man.
uh, my daughter, one of my daughters, I just, I know this is going to rub you wrong, but I took my two grand boys to go meet a couple of Dodger players. One of the sports agents, a friend of mine, called me and said, "Hey, bring them down." So I took them down to meet the players. And one of them was Max Muncy. And my grandson was 9 or 10 years old. All the way home, my daughter said he kept saying, "Man, I met Max Muncy, World Series player. That was the best day ever." And I didn't get to meet Max Muncy. My wife had to take him because I was a keynote speaker for a veterans event on Saturday. So I
Oh my
had to
gosh.
miss him because I was already committed to doing something else. And I told sports agent because then I waited around. I got to meet Anthony Banda, pitcher. And so I said, he says, "I'm so sorry, Gil, you had to miss Max." I said, "It's okay. It really wasn't Max so much. Although I love him, I love the Dodgers. I'm a big fan." I said, "But I want to be around my kids. I love seeing my grandkids do this." So my daughters sent me an email, said, "Dad, these are days that my kids will never forget. They love you so much. And too bad you had to miss Max." And I wrote back, I said, "It's not missing Max that bothered me. It's missing my grandkids, watching them be happy and surprised and enjoy."
Yeah.
I get so much love and so much warmth out of that. That's what I do this stuff for. The only bad part is I wish I'd have been more of a dad when I was younger, as opposed to everything was at work and I wasn't around as much and I didn't spend as much time with you guys as I do with your kids.
Hmm.
And she said, "Oh, Dad, don't say that because you never missed football game. You never missed anything we had in school. You made PTA. You did everything with us. You just had to work. And there's never been a doubt of your love for us. So as long as they know it, even if they're pissed off at me, I love them."
Thank you for sharing, Gil. Thank you for that. I know it's a very vulnerable, but I appreciate you sharing that with us, especially here. Um, I wanted to ask a question. I don't even know how to go from this to this, but I think it's a little bit deep if you ask me. But at what point in your career do you constantly see death around you and do you get desensitized or used to it? How does that work in a professional mind like you, especially in the case of Richard Ramirez, where he was constantly you had to go to crime scenes? How did that work in your head? And let us in on a professional level. How did that go for you?
Everything we did on murders, okay, and I don't want to get in trouble with anybody. Ladies, don't write letters, please. Uh, Everything I do on a crime scene is very scientific. So imagine, if you will, a gynecologist
Hmm.
that day in and day out examines female and her private parts. And when he's examining them, he doesn't get start breathing heavy, start doing anything else. He's got his game face on. It's very scientific to him.
Right.
When a football player goes to Sunday football, and that quarterback puts on his helmet, he doesn't care about family life. He doesn't care about what's going on outside. It's game time. All he's thinking about is that football game and what he's got to do. He's studying. He's a professional. When I go to a crime scene, I don't see blood, guts, and gore. I see a story. It's telling me what happened. I'm
Mm,
reading blood droplets, blood spattering, cast off blood, wounds, direction, trajectories. What is it around? What does it smell like around you? What do I see? I'm looking for evidence. That's what I'm doing. I'm not concentrating. If you saw somebody decapitated running across the street in downtown Manhattan, he was hit by a diesel truck and decapitated, holding $10,000 in his hand, you'd go up and see the blood, guts, and the gore. I'd walk up and see $10,000 in his hand first because that's
wow.
unusual. So I look at things very scientifically. Now, if it's not my case, if I have nothing to do with this, if it's some other kind of death, accidental death, car crashes and stuff like that, those things are ugly.
Right.
they bother me. But murders and stuff like this, they don't bother me. It's all scientific.
Got you. I was wondering because how do you turn either that switch on, especially coming back home to your family after seeing what you just saw? In my eyes, I'm like, I don't know if I will be able to handle that, you know?
You don't. You come, you beat up your wife. That's it. You start punching her around, take it out on her. It's
Uh,
it becomes just like a doctor. It becomes a job,
mhm.
and you try not to let your personal feelings get away with you. It's tougher dealing with the surviving family members because they express emotion, and it is tougher with me when you're dealing with grieving families that have children that have been lost. It's
Mhm.
I'm still got feelings. They did
That's right.
CBS did a 4 minute and 28-second interview here at my house with me upon my retirement. They were talking. The entitled "Legend Retires," and towards the end of that, the reporter said, after 38 years of law enforcement and as many years as he worked in murders and the tragedies he had to deal with, you'd think that he would be bitter, that he'd be cold and distant from reality. But no, I can tell you firsthand that Gil has never lost his faith in humanity, and I haven't. I don't look at the negative side of things. I always look at the
Mhm.
positive. I'm not the eternal optimist, but I see something. My glasses perennially have filth, where my wife's glass is perennially half empty. She'll see the negative part of it, and I'll see the positive side.
Wow. Wow. Steph, do you have anything else?
Honestly, you have inspired me so much. Like my background of my I have a bachelor's in criminal justice, so all of this is really, amazing for me. The work that you have done is just amazing, very
Amen.
inspiring. As Hispanics, it's tough because we have to open our own doors. We have to break down these barriers ourselves a lot of the time. So your story is very inspiring. What you've done is very inspiring. I'm very grateful that I got to meet you, even
Well,
though it's virtually. It's an amazing, and I'm just so happy that you were a part of such a big part of, like, changing the community.
well, thank you. There was I'm sure he's retired right now, Jaime Escalante, who was the star. Edward James almost played the character Jaime Escalante. He was a teacher at Garfield High School, which is just in the barrio here in East LA, and he taught math. And he got him to pass this. And it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, see it.
What is it? What is the name?
Stand and Deliver.
I'm gonna write that down.
And starring Edward James Olmos. And in the movie, he says, "Con ganas, you can do anything." And he proved that con ganas, you can do anything you want to. It's hard to believe that I was once standing on a corner with my feet at a 45-degree angle saying, "Ale, so what the no me importa poco the sky blue, ese."
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to believe that. And I love all I wanted to do. I had three goals when I got out of the Army. One, I wanted to go to college because I thought college is only for rich white people. And I was mature now and I wanted to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I had 6 sisters, no siblings, no cousins, nobody in my family had ever gone to college. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to become a cop because I wanted to give back, save somebody's life like that cop saved me.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3, I wanted to hook up with my ex-girlfriend, break up with her, and watch. I wanted revenge. I wanted to see her suffer like I had after receiving a Dear John letter from her in Vietnam. And I got out in June of 70. By September of 70, I had her eaten out of the palm of my hand. And the day after Christmas, we got married. So this Christmas will be 50. We're getting ready. We're planning our 55th wedding anniversary this year.
Hey.
Wow, congratulations. That's
Congratulations.
awesome.
That's amazing.
It's all her. Trust me. She's the one that's kept this marriage together.
Yeah.
And she's an angel.
You have had to have strong women.
She's going straight to heaven. She's not passing go. She's not collecting $200. She's paid her dues.
Wow, that's awesome. You know, when you were talking like that, it only reminded me of the Blood In, Blood Out movie.
Oh yeah.
Is that how truth like depicted?
That's
is that
real. That
really
real?
I grew up watching that, Gil. I grew up watching that in the 90s when I was a kid.
Orale, carnal.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
That's the way it was.
Miklo. Yeah.
What happened? You gonna be a chavala? What? No, it was. I love the movie.
I'm telling you, I used to go to sleep sometimes because of I had a older stepbrother, and we used to watch those movies back in the day, and it's just so influential to us, especially growing as a kid. You know, throwing the VL and stuff. It was part of culture for us, even in I was in El Salvador, by the way, at the time. So it was big even then. And it's always been big, and I always remember that movie. And LA because of that. East Los, home, you know what I mean?
Even the white guy in the movie, the one with the peg leg, they got shot. That was portrayed. He was supposed to be a guy by the name of Joe Morgan, who was part of Emma eventually. And those are real. They were portraying real characters. It's funny for me to watch. You know, I specialized in gangs early on, and I started the plainclothes gang unit for the Sheriff's Department at East LA Station. And so part of my job was interacting with gang members. You know, we were playing clothes because they wouldn't talk to people in uniform, and you had to listen to what they had to say, and, keep an eye on them and keep checking. They're not the sharpest knives in the drawer, so you could get information out of them without them knowing you're getting information out of them.
Wow.
You'd sit there and say, "Hey, I saw Flaco the other day driving that blue car now, huh?" Charlie Holmes, yeah, I saw him. It was him. He was driving that blue car. It's not blue, it's green. Oh, okay. It's my eyes are going wrong. So you just was able to develop information. And I took my wife to go see the play Zoot Suit. And it was a play starring Edward James Olmos was in it. And they had taken gang members from different gangs, and they took them in a group to the theater to watch Zoot Suit. And as soon as Edward James, the way the movie starts, the play starts out, he comes out and he leans back in his Zoot Suit with one leg kicked out, and he's going, "Orale pues." And I'm sitting there telling the wife, "You mean I paid $25 to come and see some guy say, "Orale pues"? I get that for free every day out there." And then during the intermission, the gang members got in a fight with each other. They're in where they were selling all the food, the snacks, the cokes, and everything, and they broke it up right away. People started cheering. They thought it was part of the play. It wasn't.
Oh, and it was a real fight.
It was a real fight. The guys were back there throwing wanted, So it was a good time. That gave me my start, and I was a natural for it. That's why they asked me to do it, and I wouldn't change anything in my career. It was good to me. I was
Wow.
surrounded by good people.
Well, Gil, I have this last one question for you, and I think this is just might be more just for me. Um, but w- I've heard theories about this before. But why do you think that now? And the only thing I can think of is technology. But why do you think that now you see less serial killers? Is it because we catch them earlier because of DNA? Why do you think there is less of this commonality that in the day to day now?
I don't think there is less.
Oh, you think there's
There's
the
still,
same?
yes. The only difference is as we get smarter in investigation and technology,
Uh-huh.
they get smarter in studying what we're doing to help them.
Like a cat and
Murder,
mouse almost.
murder is an irrational act
Hmm.
followed by acts of rationality. Irrational for me to kill
Wow.
somebody. Now, rationally, I can do everything I can to prevent them from capturing me. And most of the reason these guys get captured is because they talk to a friend, to somebody, they get loaded, they loose
Mm.
lips, eat chips. And that's what happened. But they're still out there. They're just well aware of what we can do. We did all of this without DNA. We
Hmm.
Yeah,
didn't
that
have
wasn't
DNA back
because
then.
DNA came available in like 86 or so, right?
Well,
1986.
they just started the end of '85. They started
Hmm.
DNA, but we didn't have it. And
That's even more impressive.
yeah.
You might actually be a superhero.
You definitely are.
Yeah.
I'm
Uh,
just an overweight retired cop, Mexican.
well, Gil, listen, thank you for truly, and I mean this, for taking your time and giving us a shot to have a conversation with you. I think you are truly an inspiration to many, and I'm honored to have a conversation with you. I actually learned things for you today. I'm gonna go back and watch this again and just learn from the words that you were speaking to us. I feel like there was a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience that was coming towards us and to many people in my community. So, it's an honor to have you here on my channel. And whenever you're in Atlanta or whenever you let me know, and the red carpet will be rolled out for you, man. I would love
Well,
to meet you in person.
thank you very much. If I get out there, we'll sure do that. If there's anything I can do for either one of you, for you or Stephanie. Stephanie, congratulations on your bachelor's degree. Don't give up. Keep doing what you got to do. Perseverance will pay off.
Hey, man,
Thank you so
she's
much.
undersold this. She's actually trying to become a lawyer, Gil. She's working towards that.
Okay, well, I got to be honest with you. I got to be honest with you. When I finished I was finishing up on my associate degree, and I talked to my wife. We were newlyweds, kind of newlyweds, first couple
Hmm.
of years. And I said, "Dear, how would you, what would you say if I said I want to continue on and become a lawyer? Because I got a taste of criminal law. One of my classes, I became prosecutor, and then I played the defense attorney, and I really loved litigating. I really enjoyed it." He says, "What does it mean?" I said, "It means 4 more years of college, 4 more years of no personal life, working and going to college. That's it. For a better ending, though. In the end, it will be better." And she said, no, she didn't want me to give up 4 more years. She was thoroughly satisfied. She had been with me from the very beginning. She knew then we got married, I was going to become a cop. She went through the process and she said, I don't need money. So
Wow.
here we are. And I remember specifically doing with a brand new deputy district attorney. He was doing a murder prelim for me, a preliminary hearing, and he was nervous because it was the first one he had ever done. And I said, come on, let's go in this room. So I went in the room and I told him what he had to do. All he had to do was to show that a crime was committed and there's reasonable cause to believe that the man we have before the judge is the man that did it. We don't have to prove that he's guilty. We don't have to do this. It doesn't take a lot of work. I'll be right there be holding your hand right next to you at the seat. And so we had him in there about a half hour, talked to him, coached him through this. About 5 years later, I'm with a deputy district attorney friend of mine. He says, hey, Gil, he says, remember this guy? And I looked, I said, well, not really. He's a public defender. He's working for the other side. I said, no, I don't care. He's an attorney. They've got a job to do. And he says, he knows you. And he looks at me and he says, you don't remember, but you gave me a class for a half hour in a room that would have taken 3 hours minimally in college just to prepare me for this. And you did it. And so you want to be a lawyer, you be a good one. You'll be a good one. You got the drive. Just grind away. It's not going to come
Amen.
easy.
Amen.
It hasn't been easy trying to get there, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it, and
Well, I
my
wish you
my
the best.
passion is definitely there for it. So I've already been a paralegal for immigration, so it's definitely I can definitely see it coming soon.
Yeah,
You
I'd
know,
love
Lord
to.
permit.
I would have loved to have been. I'd love to have been an attorney. And so one of my best friends, attorney today, very, very. He said, Gil. I said, no, it's too late, Lenny. I'm not. I'm not going back to school. I'm not doing it no more. I'm done. I'm satisfied. So that's it. I just sent day before yesterday. What would be the granddaughter of a good friend of mine that grew up on the block. He didn't get off the block. He ended up dying in an
Oh
overdose.
man.
And his granddaughter, who I watched as a little baby, his daughter is his is the girl's mother. I just got an email 2 days ago saying she passed the bar.
Oh,
Wow.
So I said,
That's a
God bless
success. Let's
her.
go.
Congratulations. God bless her.
Awesome.
So my buddy Tony Burr and to her mother Bernadette, God bless you.
Amen. Amen to that. Is there anything that you'd like to add to this, Gil? I don't know if you want to, I don't know, promote something or you don't have a book, right? I looked. I don't know if you've
No,
not not yet.
no, they've been after me to write books. James Franco is on me. He wants to write a book. He wants to do a movie for the big screen
Wow.
on my life story. But I really don't care. I don't. I'm satisfied with who I would love to do a book for cops. You know, technical, stuff
Mm-hmm.
to do. But just to write a book on some of my cases or what's gone on, I'm afraid I'll get somebody in trouble. Not with the law, but with their spouses or somebody that they've hurt. And I told my wife, I said, I want to do it because I'll write something down. You'll read it. You say, oh, I know who you're talking about there. I know who you're talking about there. And so it's
I see what
just
you're saying.
my ego is not that big. I'm satisfied with who I am and the way things have gone with my life. So I can't. I just thank all those supporters and all those people that have kind words to say about this old man and enjoy your life and
Amen.
do what you want to do. Be safe.
Thank you, Gil. We'll be following through your journey through social media. So
Well,
yes, sir.
there you go. I'm
Thank you,
there.
sir.
All
Thank you
right.
thank you
for
You
so
have a
everything.
much
good
for
one.
this opportunity, and then you have a great night too.
Thank
And
you. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Veterans
Tomorrow,
Day.
happy Veterans Day. Tomorrow,
yes,
I'll be at two Veterans Day events tomorrow. And then my daughter, who works for the Disney Corporation, she's an executive assistant, one of them.
Oh
And she
wow.
says, Dad, I want you to go with me. She doesn't work at Disneyland. Her offices are in Burbank with the headquarters. But she says they're having a special ceremony, celebration, something for vets, and I want you to be there with me.
oh,
So I'll be with my friends at the VFW till 2 o'clock. Then I'll go with her to Disneyland. She says, Dad, after the ceremony, if you want to go home or back to your buddies, you can. We'll just see how it's up to you. It's going to be a long day for you. So I'm still an oldosaurus.
Well, have fun and have a good time.
Thank you and
Sounds
happy
like a good thing.
Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. You too. You and your
thank you.
family.
All right. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Gil. Have a blessed one, sir.
You too. God bless.
Thank you, sir.